Todd was speaking about Labor Day, and this message in Genesis chapter 30 has a lot to do with what our lives look like, and on so many different levels and layers. As you look at this story, and you look at Jacob's household, you look at how that it was such a dysfunctional mess. If I were going to title this message today, I would just title it simply something like dysfunction. And the thing about dysfunction is we all have it in this life. And that's one of the reasons why that there are certain things that we say. I think we take certain things for granted as far as the aspects of God, the characteristics of God, His nature. And one of the things about God is that He is sovereign. No matter the circumstance, no matter the level of dysfunction, no matter what's going on in our lives, God is still sovereign. The thing about that makes that so good is because if we could, we would mess things up. If we could, we would mess everything up that He has done. And He knew that all too well when He designed the way that this life works. He can literally use anything. And as you look through this story and you look through the first families and the patriarchs and the people who He established to be His chosen people, who ended up, as you look at the plan that comes all the way down to Jesus and all the way down to us, that we have a hope, and He's always had a plan, and we've always had a way from the very beginning. So whenever you think about our lives, I've watched God use people who had no spirituality in their childhood whatsoever. He has no problem establishing them and using them in a mighty way. It's not about pedigree, it's about surrender. And you're going to see that time and time again with literally every kind of person that you can imagine. I love the Old Testament. I love these stories. I love the way that we can look at them and there's actual names and we can relate to people. We know people who are just like these people. Now, chapter 30, you might not know anybody who has a household quite like this one as we look at it today. But it doesn't really matter about your past. You could have false spirituality. You could be involved in some sort of a cult. You could have all kinds of things that are going on. And there's hints of that in this story too. That there's no problem for God to work through that when you surrender. So He knows the plans that He has for us. We know that Jeremiah 29:11 says that. We are so thankful, we are blessed, and we are covered by His love and His grace. And that's what makes this life worth the living. If all it is a bunch of circumstances and a bunch of stories and a bunch of what happens from day to day, we're missing the bigger picture. And as we look at this in chapter 30, this is a story of dysfunction that is layer upon layer of family dynamics. Jacob married two sisters. We covered that last week. Rachel and Leah. He married them. Each one of them came with a handmaid. So I want you to know what that means. That means that this guy had 4 wives in his household. There were 4 women in his house. I can relate to that just a little bit, but I don't have 4 wives. I cannot relate to that. I can't imagine what that must have been like, but we get to see snippets of it. We get to see some things that are happening. I can't even come close to imagining, though, what it was really like inside this house. So we're going to do our best to see what the Word tells us about it. Jealousy was in that house. There was rivalry. I've been telling Gina for the last couple of weeks that every time the girls get together, especially Macy and Chloe, the sibling rivalry is unbearable. I told them the other day, I said, do you all even love each other? Because every time you get together, it's just absolutely tearing at one another. So as you think about that rivalry that there is between sisters to begin with, but particularly sisters who are sharing the same husband, and the manipulation that happens, and you get to see just parts of it in chapter 30. I'm not going to read this whole chapter. I want you to go study this on your own. But we're going to cover a lot of the things that are in chapter 30. There was pain. There was all jealousy, rivalry, manipulation, strife. All these things. In short, it's a house full of drama. So as we look at it, I'm going to share with you in the middle of all this mess that God was still working His plan. He was laying the foundation for His people, the people that He chose to reveal His Son through and redeem all who would believe. Believe it or not, God uses people like this. And that's good news for people like us, because sometimes the enemy will whisper in our ear and tell us that we are disqualified some way, somehow. But the only way that we become disqualified is if we disqualify disqualify ourselves. So He brings purpose out of our pain. He brings function out of our dysfunction. He brings order out of our chaos. 4 wives. From 4 wives, Jacob has 12 sons. 11 out of the 12 fathers of the tribes of Israel are born through Jacob. And the other one is Levi. That's where the priesthood came out of. As we look at the story, all 12 sons from this situation are absolute pillars of our faith. Absolute. And whenever we look at the patriarchs, and each week we've said the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we're going to continue on, and we're going to see this line that led to Jesus, and you see the types and the shadows each and every week. There was so many in last week's story. I had people emailing me and calling me and saying, I just knew you were really going to take off whenever they rolled that stone away, but there's only so much time you have up here. The Word is so good that you need to go home. You need to take leftovers. You need to enjoy this afternoon and throughout the week too. There's no way, we would never get anywhere if I really slowed down. But I do want to mention one today. These 12 sons that came from Jacob, who ended up being the fathers of the 12 tribes. I can't help but see how that Jesus too took 12 apostles and that He intentionally chose them to establish the New Testament church which we have. Jesus built a new covenant community of faith that fulfilled and expanded all the way down to us. And as we look at this, you can't help but see all of that. I want to give you that view first. And now we're going to jump into this text. I'm going to tell you some of this crazy stuff. Leah and Rachel, 2 sisters, the heartache, the strife. We're going to start with Leah first. Her first son that was born, his name was Reuben. And she named him that, and it meant, see, a son. And in her mind, what she was thinking was, now my husband will see me. We haven't really spent much time on Leah, but imagine what it must have been like to be in this household where that you know that your husband didn't want you, he wanted your sister. And you were kind of someone who got forced into his household. Imagine how that made her feel. And imagine the things that are happening as she tries so hard to get Jacob's attention, to make him want her. Giving Jacob this son she hoped would earn her something that she so desired. So she named that first one Reuben. And with each son that she had, you could see that there was still strife. There was still working. There was still trying to grab a hold of things. Trying to work situations. The second one is born. His name is Simeon, and his name, whenever it's translated, it means heard. So that means the Lord has heard that I am unloved, she said. In other words, I know that He's heard because I've told Him. God, I don't feel loved. And in her prayers, and when she talked to God about it, and this household, and that drama that's on the inside, this sister who is there walking around feeling unloved, and this second one, I know that the Lord has heard me. He's given me another son. And you start to see little by little in these names, and even the handmaids. Again, I can't cover everything that's in chapter 30, but I want you guys to go look and see as these handmaids, they gave Jacob 4 of his sons. Those handmaids did. So as you look at all this and you see the names, you can't help but slow down. Then came Judah, and that means praise. This time I'm going to praise the Lord. And you see this in Leah. We're going with her first. By the time that Judah is born, Leah had shifted from striving for Jacob's love to now she's praising God. Now she's shifted in her life. She has finally gotten to a place where she's not striving anymore. I'm going to go ahead and lay this baseline for you. I hate to give away the whole message, but again, Todd mentioned it already. Tomorrow is Labor Day, and it is meant to be a day of rest. Todd said he struggles with rest. I'd venture to say that most of us in this room struggle with rest. Trying to get everything done that we feel like needs to get done, the expectations that we have, trying to accomplish all the things that we're supposed to accomplish. Rest somehow doesn't really fit into the equation, except I want to tell you something, it is absolutely the plan of God for us to rest. And if you do not start to grab a hold of it, if you don't start to realize that I need rest, it's the way that I was designed, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to work yourself into a position where that you have no choice but to rest. And then it becomes something that you don't enjoy. And you see people who turn into workaholics, and you see people who are always on the go, and their minds are thinking right now. And probably some of you who know me are sitting there saying, pot? Why are you talking to the kettle that way? But I tell you what I have learned in serving God for a long, long time is that you take opportunities and you take moments of rest, and it doesn't have to be days and weeks at a time. Sometimes it can be, but throughout the day, just a moment with Him. If you can just have 5 minutes with God, if you can go to prayer, if you can have a conversation, if you can listen, if you can get into His presence, man, it is so refreshing. It'll set you up for the rest of your day. Even God, the design was that He rested on one day after He created everything. It wasn't because He was tired. It was because He was showing us what we're supposed to do. He was showing us that rest is a part of life. As we look at these two sisters and you see Leah, that she is kind of wearing herself down until finally she gets to this place of surrender. Rachel does the same thing. She spent several years married to Jacob but couldn't have a child. So one day in chapter 30, it says that she looked at Jacob and he heard, let's read these first couple of verses in chapter 30. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister. There's that drama. And said unto Jacob, give me children or else I die. Looking at Jacob as if somehow, some way, it's his fault that she's not had children. So Jacob looks back at her and says, woman, do you think I'm God? It's God who has withheld the fruit from your womb, not me. Woman, what are you yelling at me for? This drama, this putting the foot down. The patriarch of the house got he's got two wives, two sisters who are wives. One of them who knows that she's unwanted and unloved, and one who is barren, who is mad at everything, even mad at God. And now taking it out on him, and you see all of this building up in just a few words. Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, it said. Do you think that I'm God? It's He who has withheld the fruit from your womb. And she said, behold, listen, I want you to behold my maid Bilhah. I want you to take her, and I'm going to have a child with her, and that child will be put upon my knees. And the Bible says that she bare a son, and whenever he was born, she named him Dan, which means judgment. She said, God has judged me. God has judged me. He won't allow me to have a child. This household that I'm in, I'm here with my sister. I'm watching her have all of the babies. By the way, Leah was blessed enough to not just have Judah, who the line out of the tribe of Judah came from, but she was also blessed enough to give him 6 out of the 12 sons and a daughter. Leah was so blessed from God, and it looked like Rachel is so blessed in the world, but now she's kind of despising God. Listen, when you look at these two pictures, you get two ideas of what we can kind of live like. We can fix our lives. We can make them real comfortable. We can take pleasure in the way that we look, and we can take pleasure in how that we fix ourselves up. But I tell you right now, if you're out of the will of God, you'll be of all people most miserable. I would rather be in the will of God and out of the will of this world and its people anytime than to have it all together here but not have it right with God. That's a bad choice. And as you look at these two, initially you start to look and you get pictures here. She spent several years married but could not have a child. So she started hustling. You look at that and you see that right here, that she comes up with another way. She says, here, have a baby by her, and I'll take that baby. And I'm, kind of backhandedly, she names him Dan. God has judged me. The word Daniel means that only God can judge me, by the way. So if you know someone named Daniel or Danielle, that's where their name comes from. Only God can judge me. So as we look at this, she envied her sister. She absolutely couldn't stand the situation that they were in. All of the tension, all of the drama, all under one roof. Each of them with their own strife and strife too with each other. Man, it's bad. It's so bad that there's actually a little section starting in verse 14. And again, I'm just giving the highlights of this chapter. Please go read this on your own. But in verse 14, there's a little bit of a snippet here through verse 16. Man, this is quite the story here. They both have their own issues, but then they got issues with each other. So she's envious, she's jealous, she looks at, and Leah's son, Reuben, goes out into the field, and the Bible says that he found some mandrakes. She's mad at God. She's argued with God. She's tried to manipulate. She's got her hustle going on. She's trying to figure out how to make something happen. And this guy goes out into the field and he finds this flower, this thing that they use for medicinal purposes, but it was also kind of used in magic. Man, I tell you, if you get so low, if you get so bad off that you're going to try your hand at luck, or that you think that you can somehow rub something on you, that there's a rabbit's foot, that there's something that you can do to cause something to happen. I'm telling you, she's hustling in every way that she knows how to hustle. And they thought that those mandrakes were something that caused fertility to increase. It was something that folklore said. It was something that they said. So she found out that her nephew had some that he had found. And she goes to her sister and she says, "Can I have those mandrakes?" Leah says, "Is it not enough that you have my husband? And now you want my son's mandrakes?" Come on now. Listen, this is a hustler. This is something that runs in the family. You got to know that. This is Jacob's wife. This is something that they have seen from their husband. This is something that they have seen in his life. They've watched him hustle. They've watched him try to make things happen. So on her feet really quickly, she says, "Oh, you're jealous because I have your husband? I tell you what, you take him for the night and give me the mandrakes." So she takes the mandrakes. Leah goes to Jacob and has the fifth son. You look at the story and you see all this, and sometimes people read through the Bible and they're like, listen, I tried to read the Bible, Kermit, but I don't know what it's talking about. And whenever you read chapter 30, if you don't slow down and you don't really let it soak in, you'll read this story about the mandrakes and you're like, that's just like I don't understand what that has to do with anything. But it's explaining to you how that Rachel too, just like Leah, over time, it's a process lots of times. It's a process, and I'm kind of one of them. Surrender doesn't come natural to me. Surrender is something that I'm going to try everything else before I finally fall down and surrender. But biblically and honestly, in a house full of faith, we need to work on that about ourselves because we already know the answer, right? God is the answer. Jesus is the answer to every situation. He's what's missing in every situation. And as we have a holiday like Labor Day, I want to tell you, if we could somehow figure out how to get to rest quicker, resting in Him, trusting in Him, letting Him have situations, trading all of that for worry and anxiety. You talk about making a trade. You could trade with God all that heavy stuff that you carry around like luggage on your back, and you're walking around and you're, I wish this wasn't the way it was, and I wish this would change, and I don't have this, and I don't have that, and this is not the way that I want it to be. If that's the way you're spending your life, eventually you're going to exhaust yourself and you're going to fall down and be in the same position that you could take if you would just fall down to begin with. Rest is how that we are designed. Whenever something feels too heavy, it probably is. Whenever something feels like it's too much for you to handle, it probably is. God designed us. I've heard people say things like, well, He won't put more on you than you can bear. I don't believe that. I believe that it's actually the opposite, that God allows things absolutely more than we can bear. You know why? Because that's when we, as stubborn as we are, that's when we finally fall. At the end of ourselves, that's where you find God. And if we could somehow take this story, we could take these examples and we could look at it on a Sunday morning, we could let it sink in, and we could say, why don't I start going to God first instead of last? How come I can't go to God with everything right in the beginning and just ask His blessing rather than me trying it my way, me working my hustle in it? Why do I have to be worn down? Two sisters, man, they're a lot alike. Rachel's trying everything that she can try. This story in chapter 30, this is better than Jerry Springer. Through it all, God gets the glory. Through it all, in all of our crazy, messed up times, in our ups and in our downs, and in our coming and in our going, God is up to something. He has plans for us. God is up to something. He has use even for the one who thinks that they're most useless. Finally, Rachel surrenders. Finally, just like her sister, after she had Judah, finally she said, I get it. It's about praising God. I get it. This life is not about what I do. This life is not about what I have. This life is not about what I accomplish. This life is not about how I think it ought to go. This life is due to God, and everything about it is for His glory. Man, you ever heard that saying? This is something, again, these are things that we say all the time, but whenever we think about it, we don't really apply it. You guys know that this life's really not about us, right? This life is all about Him. This is all about who gave us the breath that's in our lungs. This is all about who keeps our heart beating. This is all about who goes before us and prepares a way for us. This is all about He who guides us. This is all about He who allows us to go places, and even the places that are unpleasing, and even places that we know we had not to go. Don't you think it's awesome how God uses everything? I look back at my past, and I look back at some of the things I did and some of the places I go, and I kind of get ashamed, but then I look at it and I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't done that. I wouldn't have the understanding that I do today if I hadn't went through something like that. So all of this mess and all this convoluted stuff that the Bible has in chapter 30, whenever you look at it, this is not just an entertaining story. That's not what this is. There's all kinds of strife. There's all kinds of hustling, trying to make things happen. But what we find in this story is that real blessing comes through surrender, not strife. Not the toiling. You remember, I can't help but think about Jesus when He told the disciples to go across to the other side. And it says that they were toiling. He could see them, and they were toiling, and they were fighting against the storm that come up on the boat. Man, it sounds so many times that's how our life feels. We get through one thing and another thing happens. Something breaks, we fix it, something else breaks. We get through some situation with somebody we got a relationship with, and before you know it, this one over here's got their feelings hurt. Jacob, we've talked about Rachel, we've talked about Leah. How about Jacob in the middle of all this? God, what have I done to deserve this? I got 4 wives in my house. I've got 12 sons, not counting the daughters. One for sure we know that they had named Dinah, that chapter 30 tells us about. In the chaos of life, God is weaving a plan that points straight to Jesus. From Leah's son Judah came the Messiah, but from Rachel's son Joseph came the Savior of the family, who's a type and a shadow of Jesus, one of the best ones in the whole Bible. God used it all, a foreshadow of the greater salvation that only Jesus could bring. That's what we got to look forward to. Our stories are messy just like theirs is, but Jesus is already in our story too. There's some things that I want to share with you as we kind of come to a close today. One thing I want to share with you is we've got to stop trying to earn what God has already given us freely. You talk about toiling uselessly, you talk about working a fever. You could try to earn the attributes of God until the end of time, and you'll be just as silly as what we've talked about for the last few weeks whenever they were trying to build that tower at Babel. You'd be just as silly as they are if you're trying to work to get God's favor, if you're trying to work to get God's love, if you're trying to toil, if you're trying to hustle, and you're trying to get it that way, you're just religious is all you are. And you're busy. God didn't design us to be busy. God designed us to be about His business. And God designed us to rest and to surrender in what He has already done. This is such a powerful story whenever we start to see some things. We've got to stop. Stop trusting in things that don't work. Why are we loyal to systems that don't work? I've been asking that for years. You see people doing something, you see people doing things, and you'll be like, man, why are y'all doing that? Don't you know? Don't you know the position that you're in? Don't you know that there's no power in that all power in heaven and in earth is in our Father? Don't you know that it's not about your traditions? Don't you know that it's not about all these superstitions that you keep? I told you there's a little bit of everything in chapter 30. She turned to superstition. That was part of her surrender too. This might be somebody in this house right now and you're saying, you know what, I'm superstitious about a lot of stuff. If you're not careful, you got more faith in superstition than you do the God who made all things. If you're not careful, you live your life more superstitious, and our mandrakes in our life, we're trusting in things more than we even do God. And sometimes it's our own self. It's our own reason. It's our own hustle. I want this. I'm going to make sure I have this. Listen, you don't even have power to be alive a minute from now unless God gives it. Sometimes when we read a word, even in the chaos, God, like I said, we was weaving a plan that pointed straight to Jesus. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. We've got to trade control for trust. we look at these sister stories, especially Rachel, it reminds us again that blessing comes whenever we stop hustling and we start trusting. Jesus, in His own words there in Matthew chapter 11, tells us that we are to come unto Him and that He will give us rest. Casting all your cares upon Him because He cares for you. 1 Peter 5:7. I'm going to ask you to stand today. I want you to begin to think about this and reflect on this. I want you to begin to consider this and apply it to yourself. Which one of these sons' name do you relate to the most? Are you toiling and striving, wanting so much to be seen? Are you toiling and working and trying everything that you do, trying to be heard? Are you toiling and working because you just want to be attached to something? All of those are reasons why we toil and we fight. There's a lot of power in those names, all those sons. A lot of power in it. Man, I just want to be seen. Man, I just want to be heard. I just want to be a part of something. You can toil, you can strive, you can work, you can do all the things that you want to do to try to accomplish all of those things. But instead of going through all of that before you finally get to Judah, why don't we start praising first? You praise God. It's not about you getting seen. It's about magnifying Him. You praise God. It's not about you being heard. It's about His words coming from your mouth. You want to be attached to something? God knew you before you were ever formed in your mother's womb, and you are attached to God whether you like it or you don't. As we come to a close today, I want you to think about your life. I want you to think about what mandrakes that you have. What things are you trusting in? What things do you have your faith in? What kind of things are you talking about, preacher? Many times it's our job. I got to have my job. I got to have my job. Guys, listen. We have a source, and it is not our job. It is our God. God is our source. And I'm not telling you to go quit your job today. I'm telling you to be thankful for the job that God has given you, and I want you to work it as if it were unto the Lord. Quit complaining about what all's wrong with it. We're in a lost and dying and fallen world. There's something wrong with everything. It's all flawed. If it weren't, why would we want to go to heaven? This place is not heaven. This place is not our home. Striving and toiling and trying to make it so comfortable and trying to make it so perfect here. Old preachers up home used to say it all the time. They'd say, people are living like they think they're going to live forever. Listen, we are not. We're here for just a short while. As we look at our lives, if we've got things in it that we're trusting in that only Jesus can satisfy, then you ought to lay that down today. Even if you're not tired today, you ought to take your rest today. You ought to take your rest in Him. Even if you're not tired, even if you're like Todd and you say, Labor Day is kind of silly to me, I struggle with Labor Day. You're fighting against the very design that He made you. We're all made to rest. The same Jesus who came through Judah's line and saved through Joseph's picture is in this place today. And He's offering you rest. Stop trying to carry what you were never meant to carry. One last song today. One last song, a time for you to reflect, a time for you to put yourself just as close to God as you want to be. He'll never turn away a beggar. How many of you feel that today? God's speaking to your heart. God's trying to draw you close. God's trying to give you rest. Don't leave here without taking your rest today. Come on. Come on. Right now. Come on. Come on.
Once again, we want to thank you for joining us online at our Sunday service here at the Crossing Church. Right now in our sanctuary, we're taking up the weekly offering. This tithe to your church allows us to continue to grow our ministry and provide you with resources for your spiritual journey. You can give to the Crossing Church in 4 different ways: by mail, online website, our app, or even by texting an amount to 84321. We're honored that you have chosen to spend your Sunday morning with us and want you to know that there are pastors online in the comment section down below that are available to talk with you if you have a need or if you have anything on your heart that you would like to share with a member of the Crossing Church team. You can do that now, or you can also reach out to us online. You can use the online Connect card at our website or through the app. You can also contact us via phone at 865-932-3993. We hope that today's message blessed you, and may the Crossing continue to be a resource for you along your spiritual journey. The Crossing Church. Feet to go, hands that serve, eyes on Him.